Sandy says read, and welcome to the channel. You guys, today we are going to do something that is book related, but not a book review. All right, I'm going to start by saying welcome to the channel. If you're new here, please subscribe, and please encourage your friends to subscribe too, because I've got a goal for this channel and I need more people signing up. It is free and it's often entertaining. All right, so what we're doing today is something that's more along the lines of book publishing and marketing related. This is how to write a press release that gets picked up. And yes, this is book related because in the book publishing industry, on the marketing side, we authors often need to let people know that we have a book, right? Yeah. Okay. So one of the things we do is we write press releases and we send those press releases to newspapers, local newspapers, magazines, news stations, radios. We send these radio stations. We send press releases off into the atmosphere and hope that someone will pick that up and then talk about us, talk about our book, perhaps call us for an interview to say, hey, let's talk about this some more, right? That is one of the goals when sending out press releases about our books. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over 6 points. I've written down my notes, you guys. I'm going to go over 6 points with you guys about how to write these press releases, how to craft these things so they'll get picked up, so that the entity out there will actually get back to you, will either use the press release or get back to you wanting more information. And either one of those two things is a good thing, right? I also have some kind of no-brainer notes to talk about at the end of this. So stick with me here. I'll give you guys some timestamps to delineate where we are throughout this. Yeah, I'll put those in the drop-down box below so you can, zero in on the point you're most interested in, okay? Look, if you're new here, this randomness, this is how it is. I have the notes because I'm ancient and I need notes to get through this. I don't edit these things. What you're getting is raw and uncut. Here we are. Point number 1. Point number 1, and this is going to be hard to hear, but I'm going to say it and then we're going to talk about it, okay? Get ready. Strap yourself in. Your press release should not be about the fact that you have a book. Ladies and gentlemen, no one cares. It hurts. It hurts. No one cares. The news is not that you have a new book. That's not the news. The news, the item that you're going to include in your press release is something about your book, something that your book can offer to an audience, okay? If you send a press release to the local news station saying, hey, Sandy Lender has a new book, they're not going to go any further than the headline of that press release. That thing is getting put in the circular file. They're not going to read any further than that because they don't care. Their audience doesn't care. Nobody cares when Sandy Lender releases a new book. I mean, maybe a few people who are fans, all 3 of you, a couple people will care. Hey, Sandy has a new book. That's not news. That's not newsworthy. You guys, what's the number? There are over 1,000 titles released every single day in North America. So the fact that your book exists is not the news. The news is what your book can offer to an audience. And that is point number 2. Point number 2 is, what does their audience need? Think about what the audience needs and what your book can do to fill that need. Several years back, I worked in the franchise headquarters office for Natural Awakenings magazine, okay? Natural Awakenings magazine is one of those publications that does, I don't want to call it foo-foo stuff. It does like natural healing and vitamins and yoga and things that help us naturally, holistically, okay, that kind of thing. There were some foo-foo psychic stuff going on in there too, but it was natural awakenings. It was natural healing, okay? So we would receive press releases about authors releasing books that had to do with homeopathy, with natural medications, with new vitamins that they had, mixed together. We got all kinds of new book releases. All right. Every one of those that came in as, this is my new book. No, we did not need that. And we did not use that. That was overlooked. We had bookshelves, plural, in my office of books that had been sent to us with, the little one sheet saying, here's my new book. That, ladies and gentlemen, got overlooked every single time. What we needed, what we wanted, and what we would use is a book that came in with a press release that said, this book about aromatherapy can help your audience suffering from migraines. That is a press release that works. That is a press release that gets the editor's attention, gives their audience something, fits that audience, and helps. Okay, that is a good press release. Well, a good beginning to a press release. Okay, does this make sense? Are you tracking with me here? You want to look at the audience of the news station or radio station or magazine or even blog that you're reaching out to. You want to look at that audience and see, how does my book fill a need for them? This is so much easier when you're writing a nonfiction book, right? Or a self-help book or something that's, current, contemporary. But, in fantasy, sometimes we can work a couple of angles and make those press releases fit an audience as well. But yeah, there we go. Okay, now I did just mention that, like the headline, right, of your press release, that's what's going to grab the editor's attention when you say, here's how this book will help your audience, right? Get your catchy headline in there. So let's talk about point number 3, which is using the inverted pyramid format for your press release. And I am going to butcher the way I say this. So please just track with me here. Inverted pyramid format. Hopefully y'all are familiar with that. For those of you who have not heard of this, let me share for just a minute what that is. Back in the old days, in the before times, when newspaper editors would put a story together for print newspapers, they would use the inverted pyramid format to put all of the important news right in the first paragraph of the story, and then put secondarily important news in the next paragraph, and on and on and on and on and on down till the end of the story. Because if they had to trim any of the story to make it fit on the page, because it's a printed page, if they had to trim any of it, then lobbing off the last paragraph wouldn't be such a big deal, because all the important stuff is right up front, right up top, right? So you could trim off the last paragraph, the last 2, 3, 4 paragraphs, and hopefully that wouldn't damage the story too much, but it certainly wouldn't hinder the reader's experience. The reader would get all the important information right up top. Inverted pyramid. All the important stuff is up top instead of at the bottom of the pyramid. It's at the top of the pyramid. It's inverted. Okay, so I want you to do that with your press release. Okay, there's a couple reasons why. Number 1, the editor receiving your press release is really busy. Number 2, everyone these days in society has the attention span of a gnat. I fall into this category as well. Every one of us. Well, we've been trained to have the attention span of a gnat. I look at the platform we're on right now, and how did I begin this video? I told you that I would give you timestamps for this stuff, right? So if you only wanted to focus on, the points that you're interested in, you wouldn't have to sit through this whole video, because I know you as well as we all have the attention span of a flea, of a gnat, of a small little bug who's only got a 72-hour lifespan, okay? This is important because you want your big, important information right up front in that press release, so that the editor receiving your press release will see the important stuff right up front, get it, consume it, understand it, ingest it, and go, I need more information. I need to read further. I'm excited about this. I need to contact this author. Okay, you want to hook, just like when you're writing the book, you want to hook that editor to want to know more about you, to want to know more about your book, to want to know more about how this is fabulous for their audience. Okay, you tracking with me? So that's the inverted pyramid idea. That's the concept. And you want that in your press release also, because if that editor decides, yeah, I'm going to use this press release, I'm going to run it as is, they're going to pick that up, they're going to copy and paste it into their blog, their magazine, their newspaper, they're going to read it on the air, however they're going to use that material. Well, boy, howdy, you've done their job for them, and you get all that information right up front to their audience. So whoever is hearing it or reading it, however they're consuming that material, they're going to get all that information right up front as well. So you've just done the job for that editor, which that editor is going to appreciate. Let me just write easy, fast, quick. All right, point number 4. You've done your inverted pyramid formatting of your press release. The very bottom part of your press release is going to be your boilerplate. Do we all know what the boilerplate is? The boilerplate is you. It's your bio. It's the information about you and where the reader or the listener can find you online or can find more information about you. That boilerplate is just going to be 3, maybe 4 lines of text, like 4, so maybe 2 sentences, 3 sentences at most, that say who you are and where people can find out more about you. That information right there is going to be the same across every single press release that you send out. Now, this headline, that first paragraph, those you're going to modify. You're going to morph those. Even the text inside there, you're going to morph that press release to fit each audience you're sending it to, but that boilerplate's going to be the same. Cut and paste, cut and paste, cut and paste. It'll be the same every time. It's just who you are. It's a shortened version of your bio and where people can find you online, where they can find more about you, where they can find your books, etc. Got it? Good. All right, point number 5. We're still talking about the guts of this press release, okay? I want you all to proofread this thing, edit this thing, make it pristine and lovely and gorgeous. Treat it like your master's thesis in college. Treat it like the final exam. Pressure, okay? Pressure. Make it glow. Because when the editor receives your press release, if there are typos all over it, if there are grammar errors all over it, if you have, made some changes in it and suddenly the syntax is all kind of screwy, the editor is going to read that and think, this supposed author can't even put words together. I can't even say them, but the potential author can't even put words together in a press release. Why should we think the book is any better? Okay, this press release is a reflection of you when you send it to the editor. It just is. It just is. This is like your first impression. This is you saying, hi, this is who I am. Would you like to know more about me? Hi, this is who I am. Could you tell your audience how great my book is for them? You want that first impression to be pristine and nice, okay? Take the time to go through the press release and make sure that it's cleaned up, make sure that it's right and not full of errors, like this post probably is. Okay, that was point number 5, right? Proofread it, edit it, make it as pristine as you can, okay? Just put your best foot forward. Then point number 6, go back after you've finished the press release and make sure that your headline still matches the press release. Make sure the promise that you make in the headline still matches the promise you make in the press release. I'm going to give you an example, okay? Because that might not make sense at first, but let me give you an example. Let's say I'm writing a press release that I'm going to send off to the local newspaper, and it says as a headline, dragon trafficking mirrors the horrors of the parrot trade in Sandy's new Dragons in Space novel. Okay. But if I start talking about the volcanic eruption in the problems in Anity's core, Dragons in Space novel, and I talk about volcanic eruptions and tectonic plate movement and that kind of thing in the press release, and I don't focus on the dragon trafficking and illegal pet trade, if I don't talk about those things in the press release, then suddenly the promise I made in the headline doesn't match the promises I'm making for the audience in the press release. You see? So yes, the stuff I'm talking about in the press release might be great for the audience that I'm pitching to, for the entity that I'm pitching this information to, but it no longer matches the headline. So I need to go back and I need to change the headline, fix it up, make sure that I'm mentioning volcanoes and volcanic activity in Dragons in Space instead of dragon trafficking and parrots. Does that make sense? Are you tracking with me here? You can come up with a great, catchy, fabulous headline first so that you can be working your press release and working what you want for that audience. But if it no longer matches, then just change it. Just fix it. Still make it catchy, but change it. And keep in mind, there are a lot of magazines out there. There are a lot of blogs out there. There are a lot of potential audiences for all of the different themes and ideas that you have in your books. Okay? I mean, what I just had here, this was just an example off the top of my head that I wrote down before I started filming. Dragon trafficking. Okay, there's no real dragons in our society here. We can argue that. That's another argument for another day. But the illegal parrot trade, that's a real thing in the real world. So that's something that I can talk about from my fantasy novels. But I can also talk about volcanoes from my fantasy novels. These are two different items that could be talked about in a whole lot of different blogs out there in the world, a whole lot of different magazines. Okay, there are different audiences who would have interest in those different topics. Are you tracking with me here? Yeah. I just have to make sure that the headline marries up to the press release. I'm encouraging you to do the same. Okay, you guys. So we've talked about point number 1, making sure that your book and the fact that it exists isn't the news of your press release. The news of your press release is what your book and you can offer to an audience. Point number 2 is the audience. You're focusing on the audience of the folks, the entities that you're pitching to. Point number 3, inverted pyramid. Make your press release inverted pyramid formatting style. Point number 4, get your boilerplates put together with information about you and where people can find you online. Point number 5, proofread that sucker. Make it as clean as you can so that you're putting your best foot forward. Point number 6, go back and make sure that the promise in your headline matches the promise in the press release. That's it. Those are the big things that I would offer to you when you're getting your press release ready to go out the door, so that someone will pick that thing up and either use it as is or contact you for more information, to do an interview, to do a whole full story for you. And back a couple years ago, I had won 2nd place in an international novel writing contest thing. And I put together a press release about that. And I sent that to a couple of newspapers. The local newspaper was like, hey, we didn't know you lived in the area. And they got back in touch with me and we did a whole interview and they wrote a whole story about me and my parrots and my writing and that kind of thing. That's where that press release led. So it works. If you don't make the press release about, hey, Sandy has a new book coming up. That wasn't the news. The news was Sandy won this contest about this book, and the contest was this 3-day novel writing weekend, yada, yada, yada. Okay, that was the news. Okay, so there are some no-brainer things that we can talk about as well. And you guys, I invite you to share some of your no-brainer ideas in the comments below. These are things that we all know. We know these things, but unless we bring them up once in a while, they kind of get to the back of your mind. We need to dust them off once in a while. And that is, think about who you are sending your press release to. I want to reiterate, do your research, think about who you're sending this press release to. This kind of goes back to point number 2, the audience, right? Think about the audience. I can't tell you how many times I have received press releases at my Asphalt Pro magazine for books that have nothing to do with construction or asphalt. I feel for the author who has paid money to a PR agency that is sending out these press releases to people who are not going to, I'm not going to run a press release about a book about butterflies in the Asphalt Pro magazine. My audience, Asphalt Pro's audience, wants to know about mixed designs and production of asphalt mixtures and paving. My audience doesn't want to know that there's a new book about butterfly habitats in Uganda. No, my audience, it's not my audience. So you want to just make sure you do your research and you're sending your press release about the horrors of the illegal parrot trade and how it mirrors the dragon trafficking. You want to make sure that you're sending that press release to a parrot publication or a parrot blog, right? And not an asphalt magazine. Make sure that you're targeting the audience. Make sure you know who you're sending your press release to, and you're sending it to someone who's going to be excited about the problem you're solving for them. There you go. That's it, you guys. Thumbs up for solving problems with your press release so that it gets picked up and used. Yay. I hope that you're already subscribed to the channel. If you're not, please, I welcome you to join us. Every once in a while, I do something kind of useful like this. Mostly we're talking about books. Mostly we're doing book reviews and booktube tags and book stuff and just enjoying books here at the channel. So I welcome you to join us for that. Please subscribe, please follow along. And thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that this was useful. I hope it was helpful. Please let me know in the comments below what kind of press release success you have seen, or if you're just starting this journey. It's kind of wacky and wild. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in.